Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Robin,
So you can put all that material away that you prepared.
you're going to have to cut your script.
No, you're fine. It's first come, first served. Grab a chair. There's actually more chairs in the cash wrap too. So. You have to tell us when we have to start the evening.
The extra beginning.
Oh.
The video hasn't popped up yet. We're still trying to get that. Is this still here?
We moved it there. It used to be in the back. Yeah.
Okay. It says we're on. It says we're broadcasting.
I can't get it yet.
This is the part that looks like book TV before they start up.
Oh, you got floppy.
Thanks, Jerry. I know you too well.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
No, this is just for us with family.
Robin,
Facilitate that. So put your questions in the back of the book.
I've got them actually. I wrote them all down.
Very tight there. And
And I had everything.
What's going on?
Look at my copy. Are you impressed?
Mine looks really
I want
nice.
you to
You know, it's
use
like
that.
red, so
Well, thank you. This is perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I can't talk
By a
about
flashlight
that.
man.
I have that one. I don't know why.
Can you
It's
taste it?
No. No, so then I've always been.
Okay. Good news. We're live. We're streaming. Bad news. We've been streaming for about 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay. So
All
it's our
right.
first time.
Yes. We'll start now. We want to welcome you to the first ever meeting of the No Commitment Book Club. If you are here in person, we hope you'll enjoy the friendship, the refreshments, and the discussion. If you are watching on YouTube, you're responsible for your own friends and food. To kick off the No Commitment Book Club, StLBooks has generously provided all the food and wine tonight. To help them defray the cost, though, we are asking that you consider bringing a bottle of wine or a treat to share every month, but you don't have to. No commitment. And for those of you at home who can send food and drinks, please do so to 100 West Jefferson. She says just kidding, but I don't. So send we formed this anti-book club, because we, like so many book lovers, really like the idea of a book club, but worry that we can't keep up, and we don't want to let the other members down. I know that's why I'm here, because I haven't actually read many books for fun in the last couple of years. And this was the first in a while, so that was kind of nice. The club will meet every fourth Wednesday at StLBooks, 100 West Jefferson in Kirkwood. For details, visit the website and check out the Bookscape Blog at StLBooks.com. The club is focused on fiction, and we're open to mainstream, literary, popular fiction of all genres, old and new. Every fourth book will be a St. Louis author. One of our goals is to help promote local writers, and maybe they might even show up here. You never know what you'll see. The first two non-commitment book club books selections are The Weirdness, a 2014 debut novel by Jerry Bushnell, which we will be discussing tonight, and a classic Gothic novel by Shirley Jackson, We Have Always Lived in the Castle, which will be our October book. So stop on by StLBooks and pick that up. We're calling for recommendations for the November book, so please send that to info@stlbooks.com and write No Commitment Book Recommendations in the subject line of your email. We also recommend you subscribe to StLBooks newsletter and like us on Facebook to receive updates on the club. If bad weather should result in cancellation of a meeting, they'll post about it on Facebook, and we'll all yell from our homes. But anyway, on to Robin, who's our host for the evening.
Thank you, Brad. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, audience. you may ask yourself, why do we call it the No Commitment Book Club? So we want to take a moment to explain that you do not have to attend the meetings, although we hope you will. We live cast if you want to join in from home, or you can skip meetings. There aren't any No Commitment Book Club leads. You don't have to buy the book. Of course, we hope you will buy the book and support our local bookstore. But we are taking 15% off all No Commitment Book Club selections. So during the month that the book, from now until the end of October, we'll be taking 15% off the We Have Always Lived in the Castle. And we will continue to take 15% off the Weirdness through the end of September. So if you would like to buy either of these books, then you have copies here at the store. The other thing is, the other reason it's not a commitment bookstore, not a commitment book club or obligation book club, I should say, is you don't even have to read the book. Although we should all try to read the book, we don't feel that not being able to read it or finish it should prohibit any book lover from coming to our No Commitment Book Club meeting or joining in on the discussion for that matter. And we're going to prove it tonight. So we're going to start off with an introduction to the book for those of you who did not read it. And if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read a little bit of material here about the book. The Weirdness is described by the publisher, which is Melville House, as a comic novel exploring the supernatural underbelly of the New York City literary scene. Billy Ridgway and his friend Anil are aspiring fiction writers and co-workers at a sandwich shop. Billy shares an apartment with Jürgen. Billy's bedroom has no privacy. It's fully visible from the living room, and this is affecting his love life. His girlfriend is Denver, an aspiring filmmaker. Billy wakes up one morning with a terrible hangover and finds a man that's sitting in his living room. The man introduces himself as Lucifer Morningstar, the devil himself. He tells Billy he has come to strike a bargain. A powerful warlock has stolen the Nico of infinite equilibrium, which is a perpetual motion machine that looks like one of those waving cat statues. There's a picture here on the cover of the book that you often see in Asian restaurants. This particular statue, however, has the power to destroy the world. The devil offers that if Billy retrieves Nico from the warlock's lair, which is a tower located in Chelsea and concealed by a magic spell, Lucifer will protect him from harm and use his industry contacts, which isn't saying much about the publishing industry, to score the unpublished writer a 5-figure book deal. Now, I don't know if the rest of you find that laughable, but he's going to do all this for a 5-figure book deal. I don't know.
I thought it was funny that he would use his powers to make a deal.
Yeah, and his contacts.
His contacts.
His contacts
Right.
and his demonic contacts in the publishing industry. In her March 4th, 2014 review, which is published in the Boston Globe, Eugenia Williamson wrote, Bushnell uses outlandish supernatural horror to expose the everyday horrors that plague us all. When Billy enters his first evil paranormal domain, for instance, he finds himself in a Starbucks. It looks exactly like every other Starbucks he's ever seen, a counter with an apron staff working behind it, busying themselves at various beverage-producing apparatuses. But upon ordering an Americano, Billy discovers that the baristas are enslaved. They're forced cheer belying an unholy terror. This book is kind of an odd coming-of-age story about a guy who learns to believe in himself by reckoning with evil. There's a lot to like about it, especially the chances the author takes and his own indulgences and pure silliness. It's a book that appreciates the virtues of absurdity, and I particularly liked his little philosophical points that he made. The author is Jeremy P. Bushnell. He's the author of the novel, this is his debut novel, The Weirdness. He is the fiction editor for longform.org and was the lead developer of Inevitable, a dystopian tabletop board game. He teaches writing at Northeastern University in Boston and lives in Dedham, Massachusetts. So, I'm going to turn this over to Mary now, and with their own help, I think they're going to lead us through some questions and the discussion. So,
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, how many of you actually read it from beginning to end?
me,
I did. Good. Did
Good
anybody
job.
just read?
Let's give them a hand because
Okay.
they did my entire thing.
I actually did. In
I
fact,
intended to.
I started it
Aaron read
today. So, how many of you read just some?
I read half the book. I got all the way up to the point that the story was really taking off, and then I had to come to the meeting.
Yeah, well, we only had 3 months to prepare, so I can.
I took lots of notes, so it slows me down.
My dog ate mine.
Yeah.
Again.
So how many of you just used the book as a coaster? I guess that would be. You know, the dog ate your coaster.
Did you use the book as a coaster?
Once or twice. All right, so did anybody have any really strong opinions? I mean, did you like the book, not like the book? Okay, I liked the book.
I liked it.
I liked it.
I liked it.
I liked it a lot,
I
especially
didn't
for a
ex-
first effort.
I didn't expect to like it because I saw the word science fiction and I usually don't go towards science fiction.
Yeah.
But there was enough character development. The character development was something he really wasn't before I started out in the book
Right.
that I enjoyed.
Right.
I agree. I felt the same way. At first, I thought I've never been one that could really wrap my head around fantasy too much. I do like some sci-fi, but usually when it's really focused on the character and really, like I like Dune. I like that a lot because I got so into the characters there. But sometimes when they transport you to this fantastic world, I have trouble going there mentally. And in this case, as soon as I saw that we were going to be doing things like that, I thought, okay, I've got to focus here. I've got to make myself get through this. But then all of a sudden I started liking it. I started really getting
I think because they went to the science fiction side of it, the fantasy side of it, but then he would come back to reality and he'd be making sandwiches in the sandwich shop. I mean, it helped. It wasn't
struggling
like
with
we
his
were in
girlfriend.
another world the whole time. He was put down or trying to make it like everybody else, and all these weird things were happening to him. So I think that's what carried me through.
Yeah, I think it made it more relatable that, you know, a lot of the things they brought in from everyday life, like the Starbucks.
Yeah.
Things like
Oh
that.
yeah,
you
that
know,
was good.
really easy to relate to. You can kind of put yourself in that place.
It kind of made it kind of chilling too.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're sitting here in this facade of everyday normalcy.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you realize things are not as they seem.
Right.
Not at all.
Right.
You know.
It was a little bit like the original Twilight Zone, but not as creepy. I mean, there was more humor to it than in the old Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I got the impression that the author was having a good time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
There were some.
We had discussed that because when I started reading it, just the first few pages, I started laughing.
Did you?
His discussion about his love life with his and Neil, and I thought, my gosh, this sounds like a Ben Stiller movie. I really did, and I just thought I could see Ben Stiller doing something like this in a movie.
Yeah.
Just because of the comical aspects of it, and I think with you, I didn't really even think of it really that much. It's sci-fi. Really, it just seemed like a lot of the parts when he was stepping in and out seemed like a dream,
Yeah.
or like you said, for me too, it's really hard to imagine a science fiction and like, oh my gosh, there's going to be like another planet and all these different people and all these little characters running around, and it wasn't like that. It was just everyday people, and he was just kind of floating in and out. And then I was really surprised by the paranormal at the end of the book, and I just liked it. I just liked the humor at the very end of the book with that paranormal and the ship shifting, the explanation of him turning into a wolf, and I think it was very nice.
Now, see, this is the price I pay for not finishing the book.
Now you're gonna
You missed a pretty good ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that
But I'm
just
not
really
finished
took me
it.
by surprise. I mean, I was just like, wait a minute here, but now he's a wolf.
Well,
I wasn't really expecting it to go anywhere like in that realm.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, right now I'm like halfway through the book, and he's just gotten to the tower. He's just literally gotten there. And so he's about to go in, so I know everything's going to take off.
There's a lot that happens.
Yeah, but I'm sitting there right now, just so you know where my mental state is right now with this, is I'm suspecting every character of possibly being a devil.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I think Anil might be up to something, I think his girlfriend might be up to something, and I don't trust anyone in this book, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I've got my eye on everybody right now because I just feel like there's going to be some surprises there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mention it because he does a really good job of tying up all the loose ends. I mean, introducing characters and then find out why later on. You know, he really does a good job of that.
And everybody's not who you thought they were.
Right.
That's how it was when it gets to that point where all the shape-shifting comes in, and I'm just like, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't you think it was interesting when he was, the way that when he first drove over to the tower, and he looked at it that, let me get the terminology right, the autostereogram. Did you guys know that word? I didn't know that word, I had to look it up. You know those pictures, those posters that you have to like half cross your eyes to see what's going on?
Oh, yeah, right.
That's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about. In order to see this tower is under a magic spell. And so in order to see it, he was standing there and he noticed that there were two buildings built right beside each other, like inches apart to where he said he couldn't even put his fist between the two buildings. So he walked around and he could find no doors to get in there and no windows. And so you cross the street and he's standing there looking at the building, and all of a sudden he does this deal with his eyes like you do with the autostereogram, and then he can see the tower.
Right.
And the tower he describes as having like human rib cages hanging off of it, and you know, it's this really sinister, horrible place that this devil wants him to go into.
Right.
You know.
Right. And how did Lucifer explain why, you know, other people didn't see it?
He said there was a spell put on it so that the passersby that lived in that area could pass by every single day and not see it.
Right.
But so it was like, I mean, it almost sounds biblical. Those with eyes see can see it.
Right. It kind of reminded me of the Harry Potter and the Cloak of Invisibility.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, there were
Yeah.
there were a lot of things in the book that reminded me of kind of tongue-in-cheek other parts of literature.
Right.
Well, he refers to Bible, you know, books, but the shape-shifting was from the, what was the thing that was real big with the vampire, Twilight. There was a lot of Twilight, and then there was Harry Potter stuff in it, and
You could see all the influences.
yeah, a lot of different, and then even like the StLBooks and the bar they go to, and of course he is totally tongue-in-cheek about the literary world and how kind of phony it can be, and
he nails it in a couple of places
oh
too.
gosh,
It's real
really
fun.
well,
Yeah.
really well. But I saw a lot of references to different recent literature, really mostly, you know, with Harry Potter, like you said, the Cloak of Invisibility, the shapeshifters.
Do you think it was intentional?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And if anything, I think a little bit of that was a little bit, sometimes bordering on the amateurish, because I think he kind of showed his hand a few times.
Yeah.
With some of the devices that he was using.
Yeah.
But this is his debut novel.
Right.
And it was an experimental one, and so I really admired that he did it, that he went for it.
I like that he did it. I thought it was kind of, because basically I thought the whole thing was kind of mocking the literary world, and therefore he's going, oh, well, she wrote this book with da-da, and it was a huge seller, and she's a multi-billionaire now, and this woman wrote about teenage vampire lovers, and she, you know, it kind of felt like the whole thing he was kind of mocking. You know, you can write anything you want, and you might become really famous, or it just might be, you might just be, you know, a guy who works in a sandwich shop.
And it has nothing to do with the quality of your writing.
Exactly.
That's kind of what I felt like. It was all kind of tongue-in-cheek about that through the whole thing.
Right.
You know, and, oh, by the way, my dad is like this warlock who saves people from...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. And, you know, it's just like,
We
He's
don't
just
have
like,
to-
and while I'm, oh, by the way, let's put this in. And
Yeah.
it was kind of like, let's make my first novel.
Well, I
There was
get
a-
that.
Well,
but
I
his-
think he did foreshadow really early in the book. So.
He did.
Yeah, but
He
the
did.
thing about his dad though too was that I thought how he like tied that in, how his dad came into the end, tried to save him in the fire and all that. His dad, and I'm thinking the thing with mocking the literary world too, how like his dad was in the what was it, a bookseller or into books.
Fancy
and-
books.
Yeah, and he had books all over the
And there's
house.
always
And here's
calling him,
yeah,
and
here's
reading
his son who's trying to write. He can't write because he like makes a lot of references when he's thinking back about all these stories, you know, these short stories that he'd written that have gotten him like nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, and his dad's, you know, this antique bookseller, you know, and all they did when he was younger seemed like he was in a bookstore picking up books.
Yeah,
You know,
escaping it, yeah.
yeah, and he can't come up with a good story to sell to anyone.
Well, a lot of the impetus of the plot of the book, anyway, is the bad review that he got from
Exactly.
Yes.
the literary
It
editor.
was funny.
Yeah, and it
Yeah,
was.
that was
And he
really
said, our research revealed that he's written. They actually, the reviewer, the literary reviewer, was criticizing him as well as the poet,
Right.
and the two of them were going to appear at a reading. And so he wrote this up, and this was the literary editor that they all wanted to please. This is like the big guy in town or something. And they're in New York City, so this is the big guy in the world that they want you to please with this literary magazine. So, and what the guy wrote about him is, our research revealed that Mastic, who is the poet, and Ridgway, who is our protagonist, do not in fact represent a new guard of innovative writing, but are merely the latest pair to stumble, wide-eyed, into the ravaged storehouse of pirate poems and stale devices.
Right. Which was so like,
They're just kind of...
critics would, yeah.
Right.
And most people wouldn't even pay attention to, but the person who wrote it would be devastated.
Right.
Yeah, and he was.
So what did you think about the role of religion in the story?
I really liked it. I wasn't certain where they were going. You know,
Right.
It starts off with
Yeah.
the devil, so I was kind of worried that it was going to be your standard devil versus God. And
Exactly.
it wasn't, and I love it. And the ending, especially with the mill and the whole,
Oh, that was
it was so wonderful and unexpected, and I
Yeah.
loved it. And it was actually was kind of not. It wasn't totally unexpected, I shouldn't say that, but it was awesome, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give it away, but it's a great.
It's
ending.
really hard not to give it away because that was a really strong part of the book.
Yeah.
When you know, you think all's gone and nothing's going to come out of it, and then he pulls it together. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really,
I
I thought
believe
they did a good job with
All
it.
the religions, I guess would be a good way of putting it, as opposed to just using. And they
Well,
did
and
throughout
they
the whole
talk
book.
about-
I know. They never
Yeah,
really
I
liked
wish
that.
I would have highlighted some of that because he
I
talks
know.
about what, you know, your faith and how it could be like this or how it could be like that or, you know, what decides that you're this way or that way. And I like that.
Oh, I thought it was funny when he was like, the devil really, well, show me something, like, make it, what did he say, like, make it rain? Or,
Yeah, make it rain blood. And I was
Yeah.
like, I could do that, but
No,
it's
you are-
messy.
Yeah. He's like, you aren't doing anything here, you know?
But that's so today. Like, people of today would totally question. the devil.
Exactly,
Be
that's
you're
what
the
I
devil,
liked
sure.
about
What can you
it.
do?
Show me a
Sure.
trick.
Show me a trick. Do something.
I thought it was interesting too, where he kept asking, or a couple times during the book, he said, "What about God?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what about God? And don't you think that's kind of like today? Aren't a lot of people going around saying, you know, where is
Well, if
God?
you're-
I like it when the devil goes, don't ever talk to me about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he says, well, if you're the devil, does that mean that there's...
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't really want to comment.
Yeah.
What did you think about the part, though, when he went into the tower and he was supposed to have, what was it, the wards or something
Yeah.
to help protect him?
Yeah.
And it was like, they really weren't, to me it seemed like they really weren't
It
there.
didn't really exist.
They didn't work, and I'm thinking, was now the devil trying to teach him a lesson that he can really be strong on his own and do something.
Well, that's where plausibility came in for me. I'm like, would you go in there and trust the devil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The devil's going to protect you?
And he was like, you know, hey, you let me down. You know, you didn't do anything for me in there. I was like tortured to death.
Yeah, I feel like the whole book there was kind of that message.
there.
Yeah.
He said the devil never really did do what he said he was going to do, and any of the things that he ever
He's
said
not
he
a
was really
trustworthy
going to do,
guy.
he really wasn't.
But he'd always twist it around.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
always that,
Yeah.
that
I
classic
think that,
twist, and I like that.
I think that was part of it, though. I think you were supposed to get that. You couldn't really totally put all your faith in the devil no more than you could totally put your faith in anything else. I mean, the
Except
guy was
yourself.
talking
Yeah,
about
that's like
how he went around to all these Starbucks and he, you know, was really happy with them, but then he realized that they were all the same. It didn't really matter. So he made his own.
He started thinking that the devil was a good guy. You know,
Yeah,
that the devil
actually,
wanted
he
to save the world.
Yeah.
But why did he want to save the world?
to tempt people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's his job. You know, I thought
Yeah.
that was just so.
That was a good answer.
It
Well,
was.
that was like,
It was.
because I was like, okay, what are they going to come up with here? And they was like, accept people. I can't do my
Yeah,
job.
that's my job. You know, so.
And so that's what he was doing with Billy, too.
Yeah.
He was tempting him all along the way, you know.
Yeah, and I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you. I'm
Right.
gonna help you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna help you. However, at the end, he had
Yeah.
to prove it to himself that
Yeah.
he could really do it himself. But
Was the devil a likable character?
I
Yeah.
did like
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Yeah.
So likable.
He was kind of good looking. And he shaved his head, right?
Well, he got that
Yeah.
classic, you know, I don't
He was
know,
well dressed.
look, I guess.
Yeah.
He had really great comeback lines. That's all.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had
About
great
it.
lines. He was written really well, and he had this very formal manner about him.
Yeah.
But he had this kind of calm exterior the whole time.
Okay,
Yeah.
so who
They
could
play
you see
cool.
playing the devil? Who could you see?
Vince Vaughn.
Now, see, I saw more of a.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because this song is involved, that's my problem.
Oh,
Well, that's
He's in it.
How about Seven's Life?
Who was the guy that was in the Keenan on?
Oh, Yul Brynner.
Yul Brynner.
Yul Brynner. I kind
He's
of
kind of dead, so
I
that
was
might
kind
be
of picturing a Yul Brynner.
Half the people out there never heard of Yul Brynner.
Yeah.
I loved him because he was an artist and a photographer. Do you know that? I've got an awesome.
Great voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He did
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
The one thing that really struck me throughout the book are these little philosophical things that are inserted here and there. Like in one place, the devil says to Billy, he's describing how to enter the tower, and Billy's asking for all these details because of course he's panicked and he's the one that's got to go forward with this. And he says, "Simplicity, Billy. The great virtue of a simple plan is that it leaves one with far fewer things to fuck up. You can do this." And I'm sitting there thinking, that's true.
Yeah.
That's totally true. You know, the more you overthink something, the more there is to screw up. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in another spot, he says, he's talking, it says he can hear the ghoul's voice. He's talking to the ghoul, and he says, and he's making some crack about how people tune out nothing faster these days than an artist wanting attention.
There was talk about kind of
Yeah.
stuff throughout the book,
Yeah.
and you were just like,
Yeah.
yeah. Again,
It
the
was,
tongue in cheek, you know, just like,
Could Judd Apatow play this?
Is that?
Judd Apatow.
Oh, no. It's a possibility.
I him.
I could go
I
there.
mean, he's more the writer-director. Maybe more like Seth Rogen. Who? Seth Rogen.
Oh, he would.
That's what I'm
He
saying.
would.
Stars Seth Rogen, yeah.
Oh, he would be a good Billy.
He would make a good.
Yeah, he would be.
He has that
I
funny
still think there's a role there somewhere for Ben Stiller.
Yeah. He could have a part.
He could also play.
I wonder what you guys thought about, is it Eliza? Was that her name? Elisa?
Yeah,
Eliza. How do you say it?
Yeah, the poet.
Yeah, what you thought about her, because I thought when they were describing her in the beginning, I thought she was like really out of the 60s, like a beatnik type person, personality, and then she kind of warms up to him, and then you haven't read that part, then the whole shapeshifter thing comes in. And after her big explanation on that, I was like, really?
And I read the part where she said, I killed somebody, but I'm not going to tell you the details till next time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more.
And she said, she didn't want to.
It was interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's part of the whole reveal of characters.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a device right there. I'm not going to tell you until next time. And now you got to keep turning the pages because you're intrigued by, you know.
Well,
Yeah,
she-
that did push her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she finally does, and then to me, it was just, maybe it's just women and their emotions or whatever. It was just like that whole explanation. It was just
Just have a
She
question.
seemed like kind of a hard woman. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Comic novels are hard to come by. Why did you pick this one?
This
Aaron.
one. Yeah.
I was already reading it, and I thought it was really fun.
Oh, okay.
I liked it.
So you hadn't heard of it before, you just heard of it?
No, it was on the Indie Next list when it came out, or before it came out, I guess.
Okay.
I think it came out.
These are small press books that are recommended by independent bookstores nationwide.
And where'd you find out about it?
And they're called Indie Next, and the American Booksellers Association comes out with Indie Bound.
Okay.
And Indie Next selections are books that are recommended by small independent bookstores nationwide. A lot of times they're books like yours, Jerry, or, you know, somebody's read it, they've gotten off on it, they want to recommend it, and they end up on it, I think they make recommendations.
Those are wonderful finds when you
Yeah.
come across books like that.
Yeah, I love it.
If you go to the Flirt, this got a really amazing Flirt. I mean, you're talking about like every national publication that wrote this book. So
Boston Globe review.
yeah, I mean, it had a huge
so-
number of them. So you know,
Yeah, he's not doing
Well, that's
little
what
bit
made
more
me
than
buy
your
it for the
traditional.
store.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to read that.
She was telling me about it, and then we got together and we said we wanted to do the book club, and we wanted to do a book club where people wouldn't feel obligated to, you know, like we wanted them to come anywhere whether they read it or not, still have a good time, because part of it is social, part of it is networking, part of it is just enjoying books. And so we were like, well, what should we read? And so we were all discussing it, and Aaron was all fired up over this book, so we decided this would be it.
Well, this little blurb on the back is what, you know, was on the website, and when I read that, I was like, yeah, I'd like to read that. I think I'm not in a book club, but I think I want to read the book.
yeah, it's a twist on the Faust tale, to like deal with the devil's
Oh,
story, because
definitely.
that's kind of the main central theme, but he does it in such a different way this time.
Modern one.
And how
Yeah.
when he shows up and he brings coffee.
Yeah,
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Really good coffee.
really
good coffee.
And it beat the hell out
Not
of
just
it.
that.
Yeah, of course you have a duct tape left.
the funny thing about the duct
Yeah.
tape and the PowerPoint
What
is
the
very good.
PowerPoint? Which
yes,
is great
yeah.
because
that's what I.
that's
That was the
so
weirdest thing ever.
people are always so like, oh, just let me show you. It's like
really
it's
The
all
devil,
in
the
a
devil gives him
nutshell.
a PowerPoint presentation on a ThinkPad with duct tape.
Yeah.
Right, got it.
Instead of the giant contractor read, it now comes in convenient PowerPoint form.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he leaves printed copies.
Yes. And I like that at the end they deal on how long the next PowerPoint presentation is going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
You missed that, but
Oh, yeah,
there's
I
a whole
forgot
deal
that.
back and forth as to how long.
Yeah.
It starts at an hour and then comes down to 30. Now they settle. But,
They kind of settle with what's appropriate.
yeah.
I
But
thought
see,
that
that's
was great.
Bushnell's humor that
Yeah.
kind of like pervades the whole book.
Oh, yeah.
But I like the way he just went on about the coffee.
Yeah,
Right.
it's such a writerly thing, you gotta have the good
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's the best coffee he's ever drank.
Yeah.
And then he went to a restaurant later and he had good coffee there with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's always checking out the coffee.
Coffee plays a big part in the book.
Yeah.
It does. It's all the way through. But I mean, the writers I know, coffee tea works. So,
Yeah.
And I love the way you played around with words and phrases and, I mean, like the one part, one of the questions in the back of the book said, what do you think Bing Zhen Ying meant when she told Denver that she admired her commitment
yeah.
to immanentization of the ephemeral?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even say it.
And then later they explain that it's.
Right.
Yeah.
And Denver was really impressed, but he was like, Billy was like, oh, come on.
Immanentization. Immanentization. It's the word imminent.
Yeah.
Yeah. The immanentization of the ephemeral.
Right. Yeah.
The earth,
But it was so right on for her.
Leaving
her
it
type
was.
of,
Yeah. Which, I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
really pretentious, but, she
I'm like something
understood
Johnny
it.
Shirley would have said.
Yeah.
I just like his little headings under there, like rookie mistakes, not knowing shit about shit.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you
kind of
think of the
fun.
format of the book, you guys?
It was interesting.
With the preview words and things?
Well, to be honest, I actually
like that.
flipped through each one before I read it, because, you know,
Is there-
I'm like the kid in school who
if you
didn't want to read through the whole book, so I was like, let me check out these chapter titles. And it was actually a really good breakdown of everything that's in the chapter, but it was weird things.
Yeah,
It was like some of the major themes and then that random thing that happened on page 10.
but it is called the Weirdness.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
Appropriately titled.
It is.
I liked them. I read the chapter and then I would find myself flipping back and trying to remember what that was.
Yeah.
Or if that had stood out to me. So,
Yeah, because it must be important.
being one of
to get
those
it up
people
there.
that always read the first page, page 99, back and
Yeah.
the last page, I was like, oh, great. And then as I was actually reading it, I would flip back and go, okay, yeah, I got that chapter. All right, next one. Yeah.
So for people that haven't read the book or that don't know what we're talking about, at the beginning of every chapter, for instance, I'm looking at chapter 12 right now, and it says "Back to Work." It's the title of the chapter, and then underneath it, he's provided these like preview words that they're going to be, you know, the meaning's going to be in the chapter. So here's the preview words for chapter 12, "Back to Work": circumstances, adolescent feelings, geometry, releasing the clutch, life in Wisconsin, batshit insanity, finally you get to full stop, Chinese food versus the void, can I get an amen, a fact about oceans.
Yeah.
And then he starts the chapter. And then every
And oddly
single
enough,
chapter.
there's a fact about an ocean.
There is.
Yeah, we kind of like gobbled them
towards
up.
the
and
back
go,
of the chapter, there's
yeah.
a, you know.
And
and that's fun.
I just thought it was kind of annoying at first, but then I started seeing the humor in it, you know,
Yeah.
and that was one of the things that I did chuckle.
It kind of was a device in itself.
Right, exactly.
You mentioned
I
that.
had a slight issue with the tense change, and I didn't
Yeah.
mind it.
Me too.
But what I minded was when he went to past tense, it was like a passive past tense. Well, he would say something like, Billy had said, instead of Billy said.
Right,
I mean, you don't really need the hat.
right.
That
Yeah.
kind of makes it a little bit more of this
That
weird passive
was
past tense
just
thing.
like.
But I didn't
growing
mind
up,
the
my dad
passive
was
present
so perfect about grammar. Everything. If he said, this lady, and he'd go, where's the lady? Bring her in here. You know what I'm saying? And so that kind of stuff just,
Yeah.
jumped out of me, but as I read the book, I got kind of into it, and
Yeah.
it sounds like you do.
Well, it did create the sense of the immediacy of what was
Yeah.
immediate and the sense of sense of past for everything that had been past. But, you know,
Did the
past-
present tense work for you?
I can mind it. And I've read a lot of books lately in present tense, so that's part of it. Yeah.
Mary, you mentioned the language, and I had marked this paragraph because I thought this was an interesting paragraph, and it had some interesting words in it. He's talking, let's see if I can set it up a little bit. I'll back up a little bit, and then I'll read this paragraph. There's conversation between Lucifer and Billy, and Lucifer says, "It is him. As near as I can tell, the last time he aged was a single afternoon in 1945, during which he went from age 33 to 36. Good trick, Billy says. His current base of operation is here, Lucifer said. Slide, a stone tower, dank, rotting, covered in creepy crendulations and greeble. It's got these scary bits hanging off of it that look like they might be made out of long chains of human rib cages, like something you might dream up after a tour of Cambodian genocide sites. Every available surface has shit stained onto it. Wires or pipes or crumbling gargoyles drooling black autumnal slime. So, I mean, there was the vocabulary and the language in that paragraph, or I maybe mark it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You can tell he's been writing this whole life.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
You know, it's no doubt that he's a professor at Northeastern or something like that.
Yeah.
it shows, right. Oh,
So,
I think he was having a lot of fun, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Very descriptive about stuff like that, I thought. And I liked it too because it wasn't really wordy. Sometimes I get to a point where there's a lot of wordiness in a book. I'm lost.
mhm.
You know, a lot of wordy, descriptive. It all seems like, okay, we had to read this stuff in high school, and I'm out of school now, and I want to get to the point, and they don't want to read 10 paragraphs about
Yeah.
what the front lawn looks like.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, I thought there were a couple of spots where he did do some overwriting. And I marked one where he says, Billy blinks. He doesn't want to think about whatever might be the worst thing. She's asking, he's with Elisa, and they're in the bar, and she says, "What's the worst thing you've ever done?"
Right. When
Yeah.
she said she killed someone, I do think her description at the end of the book, which you haven't got to about why she killed that person, was a little bit lengthy to me. I thought you could have gotten more to the point on that.
Well, that's what happened here. Like, he's asking her, and when you're reading dialogue, you're kind of clipping along with the dialogue and saying pace and cadence. And then all of a sudden he's like, he says, "Okay, is this a test?" And she says, "This is a test." "I'm ready," Billy says. "This is normally the kind of thing that would make him nervous, but the bourbon is helping. The question is, what is the worst thing you ever did?" Billy blinks. He doesn't want to think about whatever might be the worst thing he ever did. And whatever it is, he's certain it's bad. And he doesn't want to let his bad side enter into full display. Absolutely not. The whole goddamn point of this conversation is to showcase only his good side. To be charming and funny and charismatic. Now, are you guys getting tired of this?
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of this too. He looks around for a story that will highlight those aspects of himself, but also maybe seem a little mean or over the top. It takes him a minute to find something that qualifies. During that time, Elisa calmly examines her hand. All 5 fingers extended out in front of her. Well, I hope so. She had to be doing something. I mean, he's thinking the whole time, and she's waiting for the next dialogue opportunity.
But it felt so real. Like, if you ask somebody that, you would be like, well, they're like, let me think.
It had to be at the speed of light.
That's what I was thinking. You really go through this.
And so by stretching out his kind of explanation of it, you could see a person just sitting there going,
Well, wouldn't you want to know? I mean, if somebody asked me that question, what's the worst thing? I mean, first, would you tell them? And why do you want to know?
But that's
How are you going to
writing.
use this against me?
This is one big beef that I have with modern writing now, and somebody will shoot me. Sorry, don't send letters. That people they're worried too much about people getting it.
Yeah.
And so they're going to great lengths on why. I mean, I think that I would have gotten every bit of that paragraph's angst if Billy would just have paused before he answered.
yeah.
Because I would have, or if it said he wrestled with how to answer that question or something like that, instead of telling me every bit of the thought process that went through it.
Well, maybe there was a word count required.
I doubt it. But a lot of it was about what was inside of his head. Well, if I want to become a great writer, this isn't exactly the way that I should go about it. I should be going with Lucifer. I should do it on my own merit. And you're like, okay, because a lot of it was in his head. And that's how he changed.
And there is some telescoping in his head and out.
Right.
Also, I actually like these intros. They're grabbers, so I haven't gotten to read it. I know that's the book. They hook you in. I mean,
Because
the words really make you want to read it. But I didn't mind what you just read in terms of the thought process, but I don't like having to think about the writing.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of writers that got that, wrote even Campbell. He did great books, and then his later ones started to do exactly that. They started to make you think about the writer. It became kind of narcissistic writing, I thought. And if you have to think too much about the writer writing, then it's no longer keeping you at the same level of involvement in the book.
Yeah.
Right.
And
It should
it
be
sounds
about
like
the
that happened to you
characters.
with that paragraph where
It halted me.
But
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it was deliberate.
Am I going to work?
Oh, I think so.
It might have been, yeah.
I agree.
Because there's a lot of playing around in this
Right.
book.
Exactly.
Exactly.
What's the author's name? He lived in Kansas City. He wrote detective novels. Brother, the Justified TV series.
Oh, Elmore Leonard.
Okay, that's the guy. Thank you. Justified, right?
Yeah. Justified.
Elmore Leonard is a master of brevity. He makes the reader work,
Yeah.
and he doesn't lay everything out on the table. And to me, it's wonderful, right?
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Very concise and to the point. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I tend to like spare writing. I like few words and loaded with meaning.
Well, probably because of your business background.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
We all want a fast
Pace
pace,
too,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
time for
get
this.
that pace, yeah, you can pace out of
There's a
that
lot
brevity.
happening here.
Well,
And I actually thought this was a quick read, even though it's got 20
Yeah.
pages.
I thought it was a really quick read.
I read most of it actually. Well, I should say I reread most of it today. Just
That's exactly what I
Yeah.
did.
It took
I was
me
reading as
like
fast as I
2
could.
days. 2 days straight.
Well, I had read it probably
Yeah, it's like
6 weeks ago
270
or
pages.
something. So when I was typing up all the questions in the back of the book, I realized I couldn't answer any of them. So I started reading back the book today.
I had trouble getting into it at first. I reread the first chapter like two full times, I think. I had to go back because when I got to the second chapter, I realized things were set up in the first chapter that I didn't pay attention to.
Yeah.
So now I got to go back and read the first chapter again. And yeah, I think part of it is getting to know the writer and the way the writer's writing. Then you start figuring out what to pay attention to.
Yeah.
But I just kind of struggled with it at first.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter. Keep your point.
No, see, I liked it. Just the first
You like the
few
first chapter?
pages. Yeah, I was just like, funny.
I thought I was liking it. I just didn't retain it when I got to the second chapter.
I did think the story really picked up with stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that really did.
Yeah,
kick
but
off
that
the
was
story.
pretty close to
It was close to the beginning.
That
It
was
wasn't the
pretty
beginning.
big, though.
There was a whole setup in the beginning where I was like, where's this going? The devil showed up. I'm like, oh, this is where this is going.
Well, he knocks the pennies off the nightstand.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up and he's like,
All over
oh
himself,
crap, I
yeah.
knocked the pennies and I made a big mess. And he's worried about his girlfriend and he's thinking about his life and he smells coffee and then he's going over, starts getting dressed,
Yeah.
starts doing all this
Yeah, I
stuff.
can't
And he's like,
guarantee I would be
I smell
appalled.
coffee.
If there was somebody sitting in my, you know, if you
Yeah.
wake up and there's somebody sitting in your house,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be as calm.
Then he realizes that there shouldn't be any coffee in the house.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really.
So I'm waiting to find out what happened to his building. So I'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
I know.
And that's cool how he brings that in.
Well, fair
Come
warning,
on.
we got about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Too
This
late.
is a very casual, no commitment book group.
Right.
Come on in.
Sure, thanks.
That's the last question where they ask about the moral appropriateness of killing or the lack thereof. And then they ask you what's a morally appropriate ability. Oh, I'm sorry, kiddo.
Hold your ears out.
No, that's all right. I'm
Is
gonna
there
read
ever
it.
morally appropriate skill in the world of this book or in real life? So I asked people that. You know, that hadn't even read the book. I said, do you think there's ever situations where it's morally appropriate to kill somebody? And the answer I got most often was, well, in self-defense. But
Yeah.
then,
What about the
does
ISIS thing?
does the
Yeah.
moral, does that come, what's the moral about self-defense? That's just
Survival.
Right. So, but it brought up some interesting discussions. You know, actually, it's like writing a capital punishment. I mean, I guess you're not really, nobody's really on the fence for either one thing. No matter what situations you put in front of them. But in terms of this book,
Yeah.
you're like, that doesn't even seem like a question that would go. Did you feel like that was a question that was presented in the book, or that he
No.
even wanted you to answer with this story? I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah,
it's
well-
morally okay to kill.
I just thought just because of the nature of the
Well,
book,
justified
Yeah.
is different
you know,
than moral.
Yeah, it is.
it's more on the comical side.
Right, that's why I was like, that's so deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just
It was
in
oddly
there,
funny
you
and
know.
deep, I will give it both.
Yeah, but I didn't see that question of morally appropriate to kill somebody coming out of this book. It was like, it just was.
Maybe from the sense that Nico was releasing whatever he was releasing, and she had to get rid of the person that was making him release what he was releasing to, you know, eliminate
Well, I
humanity
think-
was the
right.
basis
And like
for
you,
that.
like
So maybe
you
that's
said,
how I got morally into it. Is okay, so that reason.
right, it's like the war issue. You know, is
Yeah.
it okay? I mean, is it
It was a
okay
little
to
bit deep.
kill like that? And then I was like, wait a minute, I don't think he. I mean,
I don't think
did
he
he
was-
write these questions? Because
Yeah.
that didn't sound like the author to me at all.
Yeah,
I
I
publisher probably.
The publisher probably did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in this story, I think a lot of that was just to be part of the storyline,
Yeah.
you know, and it was really comical. And
Well, it had to be resolved, right?
yeah, it had to be resolved, and we're in a world where we know when we're reading this, that, you know, this is possibly going to happen. It's possibly true.
What did you think about the place that Billy feared the most? When the devil sent him there? Yeah. Remember what that was?
Oh yeah, when he was his mother and was he
What
he bullied her?
to come out with it. It was like, it reminded me of Eckert's or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the first one, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That could be
Farm,
totally
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you were a little bitty kid and an animal was coming, that could be totally
Yeah.
terrifying.
Having little bitty impressionable kids, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my god, everything I'm doing is gonna traumatize them. These are scary places. I can't leave them alone at the Eckert's service.
Well, yeah, I can see that, but I mean, for him to be in his 30s, and that was still the place he feared him.
I don't know, though. I think that's
6.
Still had a rough life.
Yeah.
Early on, you said that you almost didn't read it because it's science fiction, which is kind of a weird category. And you thought little monsters and things other planets.
Yeah.
Do all of you consider this science fiction? And number two, it seems to me to be a very broad category that can be detrimental to
I mean, if somebody asked me if this was, I would myself, I would not.
What you
Try
call
this
it?
as science
It's more
fiction. I'm willing to call it more.
fantasy, not more fantasy.
Yeah, I just
Paranormal
more of a little
Paranormal.
bit, maybe a little bit of fantasy or fiction with a little paranormal in it.
Yeah.
You know,
It's definitely the paranormal range.
I mean, it's like The Wizard of Oz science fiction.
I think
You
it's
know,
YA
that
though.
would
I think
be-
it classifies YA.
Kind of like
Careful.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, like those were normal guys, the Ghostbuster guys, but you know, they were taking on these fictitious.
It has
Yeah, at least
mysticism
when
and
I'm reading it at the beginning, I don't know, I didn't even get, maybe it's just me, but you know, the devil came in and I'm thinking, well, you know, maybe he's using his imagination and he's thinking this guy's there. I don't know, I just,
Well, and also he doesn't really want to accept him as the devil. It's like, what's this guy doing in my house? You know, what? How could he come in and he's got this great coffee? I mean, it's not like he comes in, you know, like red with horns going, oh, I said that. You know, he
And
comes
he had
in
a
as
PowerPoint
and he has a PowerPoint presentation. And then even when he goes to the bad guy's tower, it turns out to look like a Starbucks. So, you know, it was pretty based in
He had a
reality.
PowerPoint presentation with him in it from like an hour ago.
Right.
Yeah.
With a picture of him
Yeah.
from like an hour ago in
Yeah.
the PowerPoint presentation.
I don't know.
to me, I would classify it more as fiction with some type of a little paranormal twist or something.
Yeah, and a little humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was also sort of a kind of, well, very loose version of coming of age because the main character, Billy, he's this brave at the beginning and
Yeah.
he makes strong commitments and he sticks to his guns and, you know, at the end he,
Kind of finds himself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in the beginning, he doesn't seem to have it together at all.
No,
He
he's
doesn't
just
care
like
about
a
anybody.
loose candy.
Yeah, there's kind of a little bit of a reference to Wizard of Oz too, because as it turns out, in one part of the book, the devil actually tells him that, you know, almost in these words, that you've had it all along, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it turns out that what he wanted, he actually could accomplish anyway.
It asked him, do you
Yeah,
really
there's
want to
actually-
go back to your life?
Right.
There's a
And
quote in there about that.
Billy's like, no.
Now, would you put this as a bookstore owner?
Mhm.
When you shelf this, would you put this in sci-fi? I
No,
mean,
she had it in fantasy.
My side
Yeah.
says fantasy, so that's what we go with.
Although that is a big dilemma of a bookseller.
Yeah, because
We're always
here-
like, where do we put this?
Yeah, because here I'm seeing fiction, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm not.
I think it would fit in mainstream fiction as well. But I think a
Sounds
lot
like
of,
it would.
yeah, I think, you know, like what you and I read, what we like to read, we tend to go to the fiction section. We might miss this book if it's
Right.
over in fantasy. So really cross-referencing it, you know.
There was a book written years ago, it's a classic now, called Time and Again.
Mhm.
If anybody ever hear of
I
Time and
see.
Again.
What's a movie?
Wasn't that a movie with Christopher Reeve?
It was called Somewhere in Time.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
It was the same
Yeah.
story.
Was it?
I just heard that Clooney bought the rights
Oh, really?
to the book. But that one was fiction, but that had been in science fiction. For fantasy,
Yeah,
and a lot
right.
of people were looking for
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
like
that.
flashback.
Hey, Robin,
Go.
we're at an hour. Do you want to keep going with this? Or you want to turn this off and keep talking?
Shall we wrap up? Why don't we go ahead and wrap up, and those of you that are here, we can still hang out and eat. We have Al, just got here, so you're going to hang out with all of us and get some food.
Good.
The rest of you that you may be watching this on live cast should be here. We have food. Better food than you have, we think. So,
As we mentioned earlier, our October book selection is We Always Have Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. This is a Gothic classic. We thought it would be fitting for the Halloween season. You may recognize Shirley Jackson as one of the most brilliant and influential authors of the 20th century. She is widely acclaimed for her stories and novels of the supernatural, including the well-known short story The Lottery and the best-selling The Haunting of Hill House. We'll talk more about that next month, though. Don't forget to send us your recommendations for the November book. You can send them to the STL, or you can post them on the STL website blog at www.stlbooks.com. You can watch this on YouTube. We'll post it all over the place. But again, we'd love to have you here in person, so feel free to stop by the store. For everyone who is here tonight, thank you so much. And we will see you all on October 22nd here at 6:30 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Brad.